Welcome to Parlay Power Hour for November 12th, 2021. We're joined by Will Reed. I'm very happy because I get sick of Grant Mitchell every day. We'll start with Will. Will, how you doing today, man? It's been a long time.
I'm doing pretty good. I was supposed to join the show yesterday. Woke up feeling a little sick, under the weather. Feeling much better today. I was going to go up to Tallahassee, actually, drive 7 hours to go watch Miami beat down on FSU this weekend. But Jack Fratboy and I made the executive decision that probably wouldn't be the most fun trip. I mean, driving 7 hours there and back tonight and then or today and then on Sunday morning. Probably hungover from partying after Miami beats FSU. Probably wouldn't be fun. So we're probably just going to stay here, tailgate a bit here. But I'm excited for this weekend when Miami beats FSU.
They better beat FSU because you know what? They cut that spread a little close last weekend, William. They cut it a little too close for comfort last weekend when I was watching the damn game. Yeah.
So I have a story here.
Oh, Grant, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. A couple of years ago, there was this guy that I know who was in a frat, a very prominent frat, and he was a very prominent degenerate. And after one night out, we can say like that, a long night out, we go back to my friend's apartment, and this degenerate lives at said apartment. And it's 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and he still hasn't come back yet. And by that time, you get it towards 4. That's pretty late. And so one of my friends who lived with this guy gave him a call. His name was I probably shouldn't say his name. He gave him a call and said, "Hey man, where are you?" And he said, "Dude, we're driving to the Notre Dame game. It's going to be sick." Okay? And I just want to put this in perspective. It's a 9-hour, 18-minute drive from Virginia Tech to Notre Dame, and the game's at noon the next day. Okay? So they left it like 3:30, okay? And so that was at 4. At about 4:30, he calls us and he says, "Guys, I'm sobering up. I don't want to go to Notre Dame." And he ended up, at that point, they'd already committed. They're an hour and a half into the drive. So they went to Notre Dame, watched the game, came back on the same day. Drove about 19 hours in the span of 24 hours.
Wow. Degeneracy. I love degenerate stories like that. They get me feeling some type of way. Grant, did you check the comments? Sorry to pivot off your story really quickly, but this is the only person I would do this for. Did you see the comment section?
I'm looking at it.
Laka Lola is back for William Reed in the.
How you doing, Lola? It's great to see you.
Laka Lola has not been on one of our shows since Will stopped.
Since Will was last here.
Yeah.
That was weird. The last time.
That's weird, man. But good for Laka Lola.
And bad for Saeed.
What's Saeed's new YouTube profile picture? This is what we look forward to now, looking at Saeed's YouTube
internally.
Profile. Screams internally. Saeed, he wasn't going to be a Saint. We knew that going into the day. By the way, Saeed, how you feeling about the game this weekend? Do the Saints take down? Who the Saints got? Titans? Saints, Titans?
That sounds right. I
think Saints, Titans this weekend. Boys are buzzing. Saints, Titans. Okay, well, let me get into my story. So last night, I felt like an epic degenerate. I was betting on the total of the Vermont game, whoever they were playing. Vermont versus Northern Iowa. I was betting on McNeese State to cover against the TCU Horned Frogs. And then I was illegally streaming the Clippers game on YouTube. And it was a guy like streaming it from the upper deck. And he was just like commentating the game. So that was good. That would save me a little money. So I didn't have to buy a league pass. But yeah, I felt like a total degenerate last night. And I'm proud of it, honestly, today because I walked away in the green.
That's all that matters.
Proud of you.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Yeah, you know what? Like, I could sit there and watch the ESPN tab of the Clippers game, or I could go on YouTube and watch a guy stream it from the upper deck. What am I going to do? I'm gonna put in more research. I'm going to study more. That's how you do.
The best was when a guy took a live stream of him watching the Floyd Pacquiao fight with mirrored sunglasses on, and he streamed the reflection in his sunglasses.
That's great. I didn't see that one. I didn't see that video.
That was before your time.
Oh no, Mayweather Pacquiao.
Yes.
So I watched that fight. I'll tell you a funny story about this. I watched that fight with my friends. Grant, we were seniors in high school, correct? Seniors.
Were we seniors or juniors?
We were juniors. We were probably juniors in high school.
I think it was juniors.
one of my friends who he's like an epic fighter now. Like he's like trying to be a UFC guy. We boxed that night. Oh my God. He hit me with a jab to the nose and I almost cried. I think I did cry, honestly. It hurt so bad. All right, Saeed wants to vent. We're Saeed's freaking psychologist this morning. Like we're screwed. Kamara didn't practice. Our wide receiver is the worst in the NFL. OL's injured, and our quarterback is still getting into. You know what? You have nothing to worry about with the quarterback. Trevor Siemian is going to be fine. He's just as good as Jameis. But when we look at this, guys, you know what? I think the bottom line here is Saeed is actually being like truthful. He's being
vulnerable.
Honest. Yeah, he's not picking the Yankees to win the World Series today. It's pretty good.
He's seeing the light. He's seeing the end of the road for this Saints season because injuries have not treated them well.
I mean, I think you'll be fine, Saeed. I think you'll be like a middle of the road team. Maybe get it. Who knows? You got 18 weeks to work, or 18 games to work. No, 18 weeks, 17 games to work with this year. So
they have to go through the slaughterhouse of the NFC playoffs, though. So
yeah, definitely. Parlay Power Hour for November 12th, 2021. Boys are buzzing this morning. Nice little talk. That's why we only do 3 picks, because we like to talk when Will comes on the show. This is the best hour of your day. Will, what sportsbook you playing with today?
FanDuel, of course.
Damn right, you're playing with FanDuel. FanDuel, $1,000 risk-free bet. Links in the description below. Make sure you check that out. We'll get into it. Bulls money line versus the Warriors. We got a little COVID-19 case going on in this game, but Grant's still taking it. He's riding with the Bulls money line tonight. Michael Jordan, get after it. Go Grant.
Go Grant. That's the first sort of positivity that you've had towards me on this show.
Well, here's the thing. I literally watched the Miami Dolphins. I didn't really heavily bet that game last night, but I watched the Miami Dolphins, at plus 400, whatever they were, beat the Ravens last night. I shouldn't even, I forgot because like I just blocked that game out of my head already. And I look at that and I'm like, all right, plus 198. It's pretty good odds. And if Grant thinks the Bulls can win, they can win. So I'm going to ride with them.
Yeah, so here's the thing about the Warriors. They look great, and they have these young pieces that aren't making huge contributions. Wiseman's injured, Kuminga's not playing, Moses Moody might get 5 to 10 minutes a night. And they're doing it without Klay Thompson, which I think is tremendous. And when you think about it, they're going to be getting an addition when he comes back. They could trade the young players, maybe even package some of their older guys if they want to. I know the Blazers are super interested in Draymond. Maybe, I don't see why they would, but maybe there's something for Draymond and McCollum in there. Who knows? But the Warriors are playing really well right now. I do feel like their 10-1 record is inflated, though. I mean, we can run down the list of teams they've beaten so far. Timberwolves, not good. Rockets, terrible. Pelicans, terrible. Thunder, terrible. Thunder, terrible. Lakers, first game of the season. Lakers didn't look that great. And then you flip it over here to the Bulls. The Bulls are 8-3, so they're 2 games off, but they've beaten the Mavs, the Nets, the Celtics, the Jazz. I like the quality of their wins better. Bulls have won back-to-back games here. The only problem is that Nikola Vucevic is listed as out for this one, so that could play a factor. But I also don't think it's as big of a deal as it would be against another team, since the Warriors like to play small with a lot of space and pace. I think that really fits into the hands of your guys like DeRozan, Levine, Ball. So I think the Bulls are going to go in there, and I think they're going to get this one done at plus 198. I think plus 198 is far too great. I would put them more at the plus 140, plus 150. But I like Chicago tonight. I think they have a really good chance.
Yeah, I like how you bring up the point that the Warriors do play small, and Vucevic, his presence isn't going to be missed tonight. I'm a little worried about Lonzo Ball, though, Grant. He better go over 2.5 3-pointers tonight, because last time you told me that he didn't.
Well, he made 7 in his last game.
So I didn't bet that game, though. I didn't bet that game. I bet the game
You're not a shark, Tanner. You got to be ready for it.
Bet the game you told me to bet. Will, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I like everything that Grant said. I mean, the quality of wins the Bulls have had, they're top in the Eastern Conference, tied there with mine and Grant's Washington Wizards. I don't know if Grant supports them anymore, but
their second team.
Yeah, my Washington Wizards up there in the top of the Eastern Conference. I mean, Grant mentioned it. They play a lot through their backcourt with Curry. Jordan Poole has been a big factor so far for the Warriors this season. Lonzo Ball is probably going to get it signed for Curry. You're probably going to have someone like DeMar on Jordan Poole, switch over to Levine to guard the 3. So I think they can defend the Warriors pretty well. The Warriors have been one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, but they got to pretty tough test with this Bulls core that's been put together. So I don't think this is a bad bet. Plus 198 doesn't really get better odds than that in the NBA.
I'm going to make a bold statement right now. You guys ready for this?
What's
you ready?
that?
We are going to find out what the Chicago Bulls team is made of tonight, at the beginning of their massive road trip right now, because they go Golden State, then they're at LA, Clippers at LA, Lakers, Portland Trailblazers, then the Denver Nuggets. They got to play altitude, Grant. I know how you like altitude games. So that we're going to find out what this team is made of over this road stretch and see if they are legit. You agree with that?
The road stretch, yes. Tonight, no. It's one game.
It's the beginning of it, Grant.
I'd judge them at the end of it, not the start.
It could give them momentum for the rest of the road.
Yeah, if you get beat tonight in a game that you need to be competitive in, I mean, I'm not going to feel good going to play the Clippers and the Lakers.
If they lose a game at plus 198, I don't think we can judge their team. You said we're going to find out what they're made of tonight. I don't think so. We'll find out what they're made of at the end of the trip.
For the beginning of it, Grant, see how it rolls. Yes, plus 198, but realistically, that's because this game is in at Golden State, and like you said, Golden State's record is inflated. Chicago knows they can play with this team.
I know. That's why I picked them.
So what do you think? You think DeMar DeRozan is like in the locker room with Zach LaVine saying, hey, we're plus 198 tonight. Yeah. Hey, if we lose this game, it doesn't matter.
No, I just think you're wrong. Okay. I don't think if they lose, it defines what the team is.
No, Grant, it starts the road trip. That's what I said. Will, defend me, please.
That's not what you said. You said we're going to find out what this team is made of tonight.
Yeah, at the beginning of the road trip.
He did mention a part about at the beginning of the road trip, but either way, you both are right. I mean, you're going to find out what the Bulls are made of tonight because they'll have tough competition against the Warriors. But I think the bigger picture of the whole road trip is more important. If they come out with a winning record after traveling to the West Coast, then we'll know that this Bulls team is probably a legit contender in the Eastern Conference.
Majority rules, Tanner.
He just agreed with me. He just agreed with me.
He said you're partially right, and I'm more right.
We're done. We're both right. All right. Cincy versus USF.
You're done. You're done.
You're done. You're done.
No, Tanner, you're done.
You're done. Cincy versus USF tonight. Cincy, let me start. They're the 6th ranked team in the nation, 5th ranked team. We got to figure this out. They're the 5th ranked team in the nation. They're 9-0. They're 5-0 in the conference. Guess what conference they play in?
The AAC.
The AAC. I could literally take a high school team and go undefeated in the AAC. Okay, Cincy. Everyone talking about like college game day is at Cincinnati. Who did they play last week? They played like freaking Tulsa or something, right? Yeah, they played Tulsa last week. Why is college game day at a Cincinnati versus Tulsa game? That makes no sense to me, first of all. I know we talk. Oh, Cincinnati played Georgia hard last year in the whatever bowl game.
Is Notre Dame in the AAC?
I don't have any respect for Notre Dame. I've never had any respect for Notre Dame because you know what? Notre Dame always plays really well in the regular season, and then they get to the playoffs or the bowl games and they get their ass kicked. That's how Notre Dame operates. That's been Notre Dame's like MO, Grant. That's your thing. That's been Notre Dame's MO since day one. They don't play well in the postseason. They play well in the regular season. At least I will say, though, Grant, I will say this. Notre Dame plays a little bit tougher of a schedule than the Cincinnati Bearcats. So I just want to, before I even talk about this game, I want to say Cincinnati does not deserve to be in the conversation to be the 5th ranked team in the country. I think that's preposterous. Everyone's saying, oh, they didn't get in the top 4. They shouldn't be in the top 4. Imagine what Nick Saban's Crimson Tide would do to the Cincinnati Bearcats.
I just want them to put this team. I want them to put one of these non-Power 5 teams into the playoff, so we can finally prove that none of them will really compete against any of these teams. I mean, UCF, they probably deserved to be in it a few years ago, but they probably would have lost to Clemson
with Mackenzie Milton before he got hurt, I think, right?
Yeah. So they would have lost. I mean, Cincinnati, Desmond Ridder, Heisman candidate. He's a great quarterback, but the whole team is not good enough to compete with the Georgias and Alabamas of the world.
No, hell no.
Grant, can you just answer this question for me?
Yes, Grant, I can.
So I'm gonna guess Cincinnati has 11, or actually I can look at it. They have 12 games on the schedule. They'll have a conference championship. So if Cincinnati goes 13-0, right, and they beat Notre Dame, that's gonna be the only ranked team they played all year. They beat them 24-13.
Yep.
How do you make a case the only undefeated team in America, maybe Oklahoma too, is not a top 4 team when they were ranked as high as 2nd never lost again, and you're still going to move them out of the top 4?
Yes.
Well, if
you don't play anyone.
But here's the thing, okay?
Stick Alabama in the American Athletic Conference and give them one ranked game against Notre Dame.
Listen. If we're going by this measure, Alabama doesn't have to play. Alabama could go 6-6, and we would say Alabama is the number 1 team in the country because we're still going to put our money behind Alabama. That's not how this is supposed to work. If you go undefeated, you beat the number 9 team in America handedly, almost doubled their points. How can you possibly – what's the point in playing games if they're not going to impact the rankings? This is entirely – and this is where the problem is. This is entirely a legacy argument. And we got Clemson this year. Clemson sucks this year, okay? But they were ranked in the top 25 for 5 or 6 weeks. Even though if you take away all of the past seasons and you just watched Clemson play, you would say this is a really bad football team. But they survived on their legacy. So to say Alabama belongs there just because the betting public would pick them is not fair to competition within – it's not fair to the competition principle in sports.
Go ahead, Will.
If that's the case, Grant, what are your thoughts on the college basketball top 64 rankings and all that stuff? Because if that's the case, Duke shouldn't even have been close. I mean, they didn't make the tournament last year, but they shouldn't have been even close to making the NCAA tournament last year. So, I mean, it is all based off of legacy, but these teams are facing the better teams night in and night out. Alabama had to go through the whole SEC. Yeah, they have one loss to Texas A&M that they lost by on a field goal by Seth Small in the last seconds. So, I mean, I think the top 4 teams are correct. I mean, if one of those teams loses in their championship game, which is probably when their most likely next loss would be, if Alabama loses, I think they should be out just because they have 2 losses. But if they beat Georgia, then you can't really hate on Georgia for having 1 loss in the championship game. Alabama 1 loss by a field goal. You got Oregon and Ohio State in there. Both of them have pretty much dominated for the whole season. So I understand your argument, them being undefeated, but these other teams have played better competition.
Yeah.
The Alabama thing, right? So if Alabama loses to Georgia, I could understand how they would be in the top 4 because they're still Alabama. And you have a field goal loss, and then you have a loss to – I think Georgia is better than Alabama. I don't know about you guys. You have a loss to the best team in the nation, and you have a field goal loss to a team that wasn't ranked at the time, but they're probably going to finish the year ranked in the top 15, right? So I would be okay with Alabama going in at 4 because, like I said, the betting public is probably still going to pick Alabama to win the whole thing. But I don't see how you can still put them above Cincy. And talking about the 64-team bracket, or 68 technically, that's 68 teams. We are talking about 4 teams, okay? And this is why we desperately need college football expansion. Because we need Cincinnati. Based on Cincinnati's rise and like going back to that UCF team, there's no way UCF should have been excluded from that field. But because of the legacy, you put them out. So it's totally unfair to keep Cincinnati out there, especially if you're going to put them at number 2. They never lose again, and they somehow fall out of the top 4. That's a disgrace.
I can say UCF shouldn't have been in that group because Mackenzie Milton was not there, and he's they were a different team with him. I will say, Grant, you need to expand the college football playoff. But the fact of the matter is, if you stick Cincinnati in the SEC, they are going to be a 7-5, 8-4 team. 100%. And you look at Notre Dame's schedule, FSU, bad FSU team, Toledo, Purdue, unranked Purdue, Wisconsin, who can't score a damn touchdown, Cincinnati, okay, they lost Cincinnati, Virginia Tech, as we know, sucks, USC, UNC, okay, UNC scores a lot of points, and Navy. Notre Dame hasn't played anyone either.
Purdue's ranked now, but
okay, back
Purdue's the Grim Reaper of the top 5.
Purdue sucks. Hey, Purdue lost a lot of money for me. But anyways, Notre Dame hasn't played a tough schedule by any means. Notre Dame's always ranked high because they're Notre Dame. But let's talk about this game tonight.
That goes back to what I'm saying.
Grant, I'm not saying if we're talking the top 4 teams in the nation, we want to put the best 4 teams in the nation on the field. We can't put Cincinnati in that bracket. We can't. You need to expand it. You need to have 6 teams, and you need to play a mid-major game, maybe. Yeah, like 2 plays 6, 3 plays 4, and or no, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5, and then 1 and 2, and then that's your 4. That's what you need to do.
As a competitor, what can you do other than go undefeated? What else can you do?
You can't do anything. You can't. You literally can't.
So Cincinnati never, ever deserves to be in the playoff.
Yes, they deserve to be in a New Year's Six bowl game. They deserve to be in a big time bowl game. They don't deserve. I'm not sending them to the freaking Meineke Muffler Bowl, Grant. I'm sending them to the Georgia Peach Bowl or something. Like, no, it's not disgraceful. It's
Tanner's against America.
I'm not. I am for our country.
Tanner's a sellout. Tanner's a sellout to the big wigs. He has no respect for the common man.
That's a good one, Grant. That was funny. I'm for. We are the back-to-back World War champions. And you know why we're the World War champions? Because we're the best country in the world. We're the most dominant country in the world. Cincinnati doesn't belong in the most dominant teams in college football, Grant. Whatever Will says, I'm doing. Oh, well.
I'm convinced that this is Jack
All right. Anyways, Cincy versus USF. Grant, here's the thing. I'll tell you one thing tonight. If Cincinnati,
pick USF, Tanner. Pick USF.
I'm picking them on the spread, against the spread. If Cincinnati doesn't cover 23.5 tonight against USF, a 2-win football team in the American Athletic Conference, Grant, how are they going to be in the college football playoff? That's all I'm saying. I'm going to go with USF at plus 23.5. I just think 3 scores is a lot to cover. Have they covered it this year? Yes. Let me get the numbers up for Grant just so he can give me, he can dispute me in a different way. All right. They covered it against Miami, Ohio. They covered it against Murray State. They didn't cover it against Indiana. They didn't cover it against Notre Dame. They covered it against Temple. They covered against UCF. They did not cover against Navy. They did not cover against Tulane, and they did not cover against Tulsa. So the past 3 games, they have not covered this number. Tulsa last week, big time. Oh, Lee Corso. Oh, they're going to roll Tulsa. They're going to roll Tulsa. Really, Lee? Really? Just because College Game Day's there, you think they're going to roll Tulsa? That didn't happen. They barely. They almost. Grant. They were Tulsa was like a couple yards away from us not even having this conversation right now in Cincinnati, just going to the Peach Bowl and saying, okay, we're good with it.
And Alabama was so close to beating Texas A&M, and then they lost to an unranked
Texas
team.
A&M, Grant.
They're unranked.
Grant, it's still SEC football. The caliber of kids that you're going after in the SEC is different than the American Athletic Conference.
You know what the difference between these is? One loss, no losses.
Grant, this is preposterous, Grant. This is freaking.
You're right. I agree with you.
This is preposterous.
Tanner, you have no idea what you're saying anymore.
No, Grant, no. If we want to give the freaking participation trophy out and let Cincinnati in the top 4 and ruin my New Year's by watching Alabama steamroll them, that's fine. Grant, you just gave me a project for the afternoon. I'm going to write an article on this. I'm going to make a video on it and just get my frustration out and say why Cincinnati should not be a top 4 team in the country. And everyone's on ESPN, oh, Cincinnati, the little guy, they shouldn't be in it. Stick them in the SEC. Let them go play Texas A&M and see what happens. Where they
right. Win. We're picking on Cincinnati, right? Who is Oregon playing? They didn't cover against Fresno State. They beat Ohio State. That's their big one.
Fresno State's good, Grant. Fresno State can score.
Is Stanford good? Because they lost to Stanford. They didn't cover against Cal. They didn't cover against UCLA, and they didn't cover against Washington.
Grant, the Pac-12 sucks too, but at least it's a Power 5 conference.
No, you cannot make this argument.
You can make that argument. Yes, you can.
Oregon plays a bunch of nobodies that they didn't cover against, and they beat one ranked team. That's exactly what Cincinnati has done.
Grant, do we know who
Stanford? It sucks. It sucks for Cincinnati, but that ranked team that they beat was Ohio State. So
there you go. Damn right.
And also, how is Ohio State ahead of Cincinnati? It doesn't make any sense.
Ohio State has beaten all their Big Ten competition.
Cincinnati beat a bunch of JV teams and a bad Notre Dame team, Grant. Okay, that's what happened. Bottom line, USF. Here's the thing, Grant. Here's the thing. We can come back on Monday and we can
wait until Cincy joins the Big 12 and they win out.
That's fine. And then when they went out in the Big 12 where no defense is played, that's fine. I will be happy to congratulate the Cincinnati Bearcats and let them in the top 4.
And
but
me.
What?
You're going to congratulate me too.
I will congratulate you. But when we come back on Monday, Grant, and we do this show, if Cincinnati doesn't cover 23.5 tonight, they're not in because they need, as Lee Corso was saying last week, they need style points, and they're going to blow Tulsa off the field. Really, Lee? Really? You put the damn Bearcat hat on? You think they're going to roll Tulsa? Listen, bottom line is Cincinnati needs to cover tonight. If they don't, They're not going to the college football playoff in any way whatsoever. USF plus 23.5. Cincinnati chokes. I think they still win, but USF covers. Okay, let's go to the ice so we can stop debating here. Oilers. The Oilers beat up the Bruins last night. 5 pucks on net. 5 pucks in the goal. 5.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch this Oilers team, it's hard not to bet for them. I don't know if you guys know your hockey knowledge, but Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid might be the best duo to hit the NHL ever. Leon Draisaitl has 26 points in 12 games. Connor McDavid has 24 points in 12 games. Draisaitl leads the league in goals with 12, right over Ovechkin with 11. This Oilers team can score the puck. They have 4.3 goals per game through their first 12 games. The Sabres, they did start off 3-0. We were talking about it in one of our earlier shows that I was on. The Sabres look good, but they've gone 2-5-2 since then. The Sabres just can't really find anything they can't seem to get anything going. They lost 5-3 in their last game against the Capitals all the way back on Monday. Dustin Tokarski let in 5 goals on 30 shots. So, yeah, I mean, the Oilers are a much better team. You get value here on the puck line at plus 138. I think their money line is at like minus 180. You can take that if you want. It's probably the safer bet, but with the value you get here, plus 138, the Oilers should run through the Sabres tonight. It'll probably be Tokarski in the net again with Anderson being hurt for the Sabres. So I think this puck line is pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, the back-to-back. They're bad in the defensive zone, though. That's my only thing. They're really bad.
They are, but they can score 4.3 goals per game.
So. Yeah, there you go. Offense wins games, right, Grant?
Offense wins games. Sabres have lost 5 straight. Take the Oilers.
The Sabres. I thought the Sabres were I mean, nobody believed the hype about the Sabres, but I thought they were going to be better, maybe. After starting 3-0, you got to give them you got to be like, oh, maybe they're going to be okay. But nope, not at all. Okay, well, final thoughts, Grant. I still love you, and you're still one of my 2.0 besties. But Cincinnati is not a top 4 football team. What's your final thought?
Ask me what my final thought is, Tanner.
What is your final thought?
Competition is dead. Corporate sellouts win. Spend your life knowing that it means nothing. Your individual achievements will never matter, and you will always be overlooked by somebody with more money than you.
There you go. That's America, baby. Now, Grant, I will say one thing. I would love to have Cincinnati in the top 4. I would love it because
you would.
I would. You know why? Because they're going to play Alabama, and on a regular day, they're going to be probably a 23-point dog to Alabama. Since it's the playoffs, they'll probably put them at 13.5 against Alabama, and Alabama and Nick Saban will steamroll them, and I will make a lot of money. So I will be happy to put Cincinnati in there, Grant. Don't get me wrong.
I'm not saying Cincinnati would beat Alabama. I'm saying Cincinnati would beat Ohio State.
Okay.
Tanner, I'm going to bring back one of your quotes because you said you would be happy to see Cincinnati, but I remember quoting you in my head from earlier in the show. You said if Cincinnati were to be in the top 4, it would ruin your New Year's because they would get blown out by Alabama. So I don't know what your thoughts are. It's kind of flopping here.
Okay, so we got one from the entertainment side of things, one from okay, I just want to sit back and relax and watch the games. One from the other side of things, I want to bet on the games too. So I'm kind of, I could be happy as a bettor. I could be, I'd rather see a competitive game, but again, I want to win money too. So I'm good either way. Honestly, I love college football, but again, too, Grant. And here's the thing, Grant. I will say this: if Cincinnati gets in and Cincinnati gets blown off the field, we need to expand the college football playoff first of all. But if they got in and they got blown off the field, they just ruined the party for every mid-major football team ever again, as long as the thing's at 4. They would never let an undefeated mid-major in ever again. So maybe we'll,
I mean, I agree, but if they play Alabama and lose on a last-second field goal, you can never make the case that they can't compete again. Because we're only going to have one game of evidence.
True. Here's what they need to do. They need to go to a New Year's Six Bowl and actually win the New Year's Six Bowl. They were competitive against Georgia last year. They need to go win.
Or these AAC teams can just start scheduling games against SEC and Big Ten teams during the season.
Well, they're joining the Big 12. That's their sign of intent. They realize their program is elevating, so they need to make the change.
Yeah, and I think that's good. Yeah, and when they make the change and when they go undefeated in the Big 12, we will stick them in the college football playoff. Right now, no.
Just like we do with Oklahoma every year when they get beat as the number 14. So.
They'll be the new Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts for me, Grant?
I already did, Tanner. Competition is dead. Someone with more money than you is more important than you.
Make more money. Will, what's your thoughts?
Final thoughts. That's a depressing statement from Grant. I hope this weekend goes well for the Canes. They should beat the Knowles, but anything can happen in a rivalry game. So go Canes.
All right. I don't know. Miami kind of scared me. Yeah, chomp. Yeah, let's go with the Gators. Miami kind of scared me, honestly, last week with their little backdoor barely cover. So we'll see. But I knew the whole time they were going to win. But they scared me a little bit. But anyways, that was Parlay Power. That was an electric show. A little 30 minutes. Will Reed adds 10 minutes to the show. That's how it is. But let's throw it up, boys. FanDuel, risk-free bet. Win money on FanDuel this weekend. One thumb, one finger, one pinky. All love. Don't bet on Cincinnati to win the national championship this year. That was Parlay Power Hour for Grant. What's the date? November 12th, 2021.